Welcome to Body in Balance Podcast. I am your host, Charlotte Johnson, the certified licensed physician assistant, sent here to kick some knowledge your way once a week for the purpose of educating, informing, and enlightening this audience concerning physical, spiritual, and emotional aspects of our bodies in relation to our Creator, the one, the only, the true and living God. He is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Let us give it up for Yahweh. All right. We want to thank God for another episode, and we are even starting a new season. So this is season 2, and season 2 is going to be all about what happens in the springtime with body organs that are affected during the spring with pollen and other allergens. So when springtime comes is our first episode of this season. We're going to be dealing with allergens. And so there's going to be a lot to talk about today. So I'm pretty excited. I don't know about you, but I'm excited about all of my listeners who come each week on Wednesdays and get new information. You're getting new information on different things, and this season is all about what happens to different body parts during the springtime because of allergens. Don't know whether you know it or not, but I am a licensed physician assistant. I say that at the beginning, but I'm in otolaryngology. So this is my full-time field for the last 16 years. I also am a internal medicine PA, but I haven't worked in there for 11 years. So I do a little bit more strenuous research to update and give you the latest of what's going on. Let's move to our next slide. So what are we going to be talking about for the agenda today? Glad you asked. What are the allergens and who takes care of them? What makes you sneeze? We're going to watch a little fun video to talk about what makes you sneeze. How do you test for allergens? Just so you fully understand what ways we find out that you have allergies. You don't have to test for allergies to find out that a person has allergies. You can basically, there's signs and symptoms, and I've been doing this so long, at least 20 something years, that it's easy for me to just, as soon as I walk into a room, I can look at someone and tell they have allergies. I can wait till you speak and listen to your voice and tell that you have allergies. I can see certain things on the skin and things like that I know you have allergies. But we're going to talk about that. What body parts are affected? And we're also going to be discussing, what do I have here? Oh, click too fast. We're going to be discussing certain allergens and what you need to do with them with the medications. So what are allergens? Well, the people that take care of allergens can be your regular doctor, an ENT or otolaryngologist, such as myself, my otolaryngology PA, or allergist immunologists who are trained to treat these problems. So allergens are substances that tend to trigger allergy reactions or allergic reactions, making you sneeze, itch, cough, nose run, eyes water and itch, skin itch, causes diarrhea if it's food allergens, or gastric problems like making you very gassy and bloated. Those kind of things can give you allergies or cause allergic reactions. What happens is an allergen comes into the body, and what it does is it tends to affect the immune system. And when it does, it tricks it to overreact to whatever substance it comes in contact with. So common allergens that you may have trouble with are pollen, trees, grass, weeds. Those are the major seasonal allergies. So when people say I have seasonal allergies, they're talking about springtime allergies such as that. However, you can have fall allergies, which would be ragweed and definitely leaf pollens and things. Dust mites. Dust mites are another one during the spring when you're cleaning. We do spring cleaning, and that's another problem. When people are coming over, you'll be amazed that allergies are pretty bad during the fall because people are expecting their families to come for Thanksgiving. So they go up into the attic and they pull out all of their orange and brown decorations and set them out. Well, those things have been sitting there for a year, and they collected what? Right, dust. And so when they're dusting the house, cleaning the house, getting ready for the family to come, and then you go up into the attic, you stir around and get all of these things that have been sitting there for a year, yes, you will have dust. That's the same thing that happens when you go and get the Christmas tree. It's set there for a year in the attic, in the garage, or in the out back in the shed, and there you go. You'll have dust mites that can affect you. Animal dander, cats, dogs, hamsters, these type animals tend to have dander that can flake off. Now, some cats, some dogs are more allergic than others, but it's mostly the long-haired dogs that shed a lot that tend to do that, and cats. Mold. So if you live in an older home and there's a lot of rain around and there are areas where you see wetness, so you'll see black mold. Those things like that can cause problems with your airway. Foods, certain foods, peanuts, milk, eggs, different things like that. Bees, and there are certain medicines like penicillin. Those tend to cause allergens and make you have problems. Latex, gloves, and things. So that brings us to sneezes. Yes, sneezes. Let's watch a little video on sneezes. Let's see here.
Simple sneeze can travel up to 100 miles an hour and spray a crowd of 100,000 germs. Sounds gross, but sneezing is actually a protective reflex that's designed to keep you healthy. It begins when tiny nerve endings detect something irritating in your nose. It could be bacteria, dirt, dust, or other particles that get trapped in the mucus. The nerves transmit a signal to your brain's sneeze center, which in turn sends messages to other body parts. The abdominal and chest muscles activate, compressing your lungs and producing a blast of air. Then the back of your tongue elevates, partially closing the passage to your mouth and forcing the air out through both your nose and mouth. And for that split second, your eyelid muscles are locked shut, making it impossible to keep your eyes open when you sneeze. Not all sneezes are related to your body's defenses. Some people sneeze in bright sunlight, during exercise, or after eating a large meal. But the one time you'll never sneeze, it's when you're sleeping. That's because your sneeze nerves are snoozing too.
All right. I thought that was pretty cool. And so I love sharing information, and I learned quite a bit with that particular video. And so I didn't know that when you are asleep, you don't sneeze. I didn't know that your eyelids, the reaction, close and you can't sneeze without it. All right. Now we're going to talk about 2 ways to test for allergens. So there's the skin prick testing, and then there's RAS testing. RAS testing is radio allergosorbent testing. Radio allergosorbent testing. That's what RAS testing stands for. RAS testing is when they simply draw your blood. They simply draw your blood and they test your blood. So you don't have 46 to 50 pricks on your skin. You just have one stick where they draw your blood and they test just the blood. Now, most studies seem to think that the prick testing is a bit more sensitive and that you will get better results. However, there are other studies that show that it's like a 60% that either one of these tests, whether it be skin prick or the RAS testing, will come up with false positives. So I want to show you a little video so that if you do decide you're going to go to an allergist or an otolaryngologist or ask your doctor for allergy testing, most doctors are only going to do the RAS testing. They'll test the blood. But if you need to mix and start allergy shots, they most of the time, an ENT and an allergist want to do the skin prick testing. So that is the recipe for what they will make your allergens with to get your shots. So let's watch this video. All right. So we just watched the skin prick testing and how it's done. You will see they do it on the forearm. Sometimes they do it on the back. But what each one of those is a separate allergen. So they're put in categories and then they measure them to see how much swelling or reaction occurs, and they test that. They measure that, and then that's what they write down, and then that goes to the doctor. The nurse does it. It doesn't really hurt. It just itches. It itches very badly if you're allergic to something. So it's not so much the needle pricks it just goes directly under the skin. It's the itching that's the worst part of it. The gel that you saw her putting on there is usually an antihistamine gel, like a Benadryl gel, and they'll give you a hydrocortisone cream or gel to put on there to help with the inflammation and those things. You can also take an antihistamine, or they'll give you an antihistamine orally afterward, so that it's not so bad. Okay. That usually takes about an hour to an hour and a half, because they have to wait 20 minutes to watch for the reaction, and then they start the measuring on all of those. So be prepared to spend at least an hour and a half in your allergist or ENT's office. So, what body parts are affected by allergens? Well, a lot of different ones. Most of you know that the nose is affected, and you get extremely congested, hard to breathe through your nose, a lot of runny nose, blowing your nose, sneezing, and all of that from allergens. So the nose is one. Then the ears. Inside the ears, it itches. It feels like something maybe crawling around in there, or there's water in there, or something's happening. A lot of times you may not have fluid in your ears, but what's going on, if you look at the picture where you see the mouth is open. Now, I like to think, and I tell my patients, that the back of your mouth, where the tonsils in the back are, and the uvula, the little dangly thing that hangs down, that's your uvula. And along the sides there, where your tonsils are, that's called the palatopharyngeal arch. The back of your throat is called the pharynx. And the pharynx has that soft palate, and that's where the uvula comes down. But on the sides there, it looks like a McDonald's sign to me. So if you look in the mirror and you see some redness and some fine little teeny bumps in the back of your throat. Now, let me tell you who basically is going to have that. You people that make those pig noises with your tongue, scratching the back of your throat and rubbing your ear, those people usually have those little small fine bumps on the palatopharyngeal arch. And that makes you make those oinking noises because you're taking your tongue to scratch the back of your throat, and you take your finger and rub your ear because it itches deep inside your ear. The itching from your ear is actually a nerve called Arnold's nerve that also innervates that McDonald's sign area, or the palatopharyngeal arch. And so that's what makes that happen. There's nothing going on with your ears. It's just your allergies are acting up. The other thing that gets affected are the eyes. They will itch. They'll feel like dirt's in your eyes all the time. You'll rub them and they'll be red. When you wake up in the morning, they won't be matted together like there's an infection, but you'll see little white flakes on the eyelashes. And if you're Caucasian, the line over your eyelashes will be very red looking. If you're African American, it depends on your skin shade. It may be a little bit darker. Now, under the eyes, if you're Caucasian, under your eyelids will be a dark, puffy blue look. That would be also very dark under African American eyelids. Now, if you are a dark-skinned African American, you're only going to have that puffiness that would be seen. But the reason that on lighter skins and lighter complexions, you see the darkness is because there's so much congestion in the nose that it swells up, presses up against the blood vessels, and it causes the blood to back up, and it goes by the eyelids under the eyes. So that's called an allergic shiner. Allergic shiner. So that's how I can walk in a room and tell people to have allergies. Nasal congestion, hypernasally voice, dark color under the eyes. And of course, when I have you open your mouth, there's the little bumps in the back. So the allergens also affect the skin, where you have eczema, patches of dry skin that itch very badly, eczema. On African Americans, depending on the complexion again, if you're lighter skin, caramel brown, then it's going to be a very dark color, almost like a leathery look. On Caucasians, it's more of a salmon colored with a scale to it, and it can get mixed up sometimes with psoriasis, but that's a thicker white scale. The other thing that gets affected is the stomach. Depends on, that's for food allergies. And you can get certain foods that will make you have very loose stools, abdominal cramping, wheat tends to do that. Gluten foods tend to do that. Shrimp, peanuts, and that kind of thing can do that kind of stuff to people. These are the different organ systems that can be affected. If you've had any of those symptoms, go see your doctor. You may be having some problems with allergies. So, what medications are there out there? We're getting ready to wrap up very quickly. I don't like to keep you all on too long, but I do love to give you some real juicy information. Medications used for allergies, we use decongestants. Now, I don't care for using decongestants very often with my patients over 40 because it tends to raise the blood pressure. Pseudoephedrine is notorious for raising blood pressure. Yes, it works. Dries up a drippy nose, dries up the stuff draining down the back of your throat, the postnasal drainage. It does, the clearing the throat and all of that, but it can raise the blood pressure, especially if it's 60 milligrams or more. I don't like Claritin D because if it's the 24-hour, it's 240 milligrams of pseudoephedrine. That's an awful lot of pseudoephedrine, and it can shoot the blood pressure up. If you're blood pressure sensitive, I would not do that. Do Claritin, Allegra, Zysol, Zyrtec. You can do any of those and just don't add the Claritin D, Zyrtec D, or any of those with the D on the end of it. Also, males, my male listeners, if you are over 40 and you tend to take these antihistamines with the pseudoephedrine in there, I'm telling you, if you're standing over the toilet trying to urinate and it doesn't seem to be coming out, it's because pseudoephedrine that much, especially if you take it regularly and often, will cause your prostate to enlarge. It's not on the box, but it can cause your prostate to enlarge, so you better be careful with using that. Now, Afrin is another really good medicine that works, but you shouldn't be using it more than 3 days. If you have a cold or something like that, you can use it for 2 to 3 days. But if you start using it all the time, then you really need to go see an ENT, because there's some problems going on, and that can make it worse. It can be addictive. It's like you can't breathe without it. And I know there's some of you out there, so you are on the phone now making appointments. Great. Expectorants just thin mucus. So Mucinex, Robitussin, and that, they just thin the mucus so that it doesn't get so thick. If you're having thick colored mucus, you need to go see your doctors. Antihistamines like oral antihistamines such as Claritin, Allegra, Zysol, Zyrtec, Benadryl. Benadryl and Zyrtec can tend to make people drowsy. Claritin does not. Claritin is also loratadine. Zyrtec is cetirizine. Zysol, a really good one. Those are oral ones. Now there's the nasal spray that's a antihistamine called azolastine. Azolastine works wonders, especially in conjunction with the medicine that I'm getting ready to tell you about now. The thing is, with azolastine, it has a horrible taste. It is yucky, but it does work. I suggest, I'm going to teach you how to do it right now. Tip your head down, put the nozzle in with your head tipped down and point it toward the corner of your eye and go, and right behind it, if you have the Flonase or Nasacort, do that spray with the antihistamine and the nasal steroid. That will help with the swelling. That will help to open up your nose, and it works wonders. It can get you off of that Afrin. Now, there's also those nasal saline rinse bottles. I should have shown you one, but we have a whole season, and we'll talk about that, and I'll bring that on. But a nasal rinse bottle, I like that better than the neti pot. Ugh, I don't like the neti pot, because when you tip your head to pour it in, it tends to put water into your ear through your eustachian tube. Then it can give you an ear infection. That's why I don't like it. The nasal rinse bottle, you tip your head down and just squirt half the bottle in your nose, let it go in, and it'll run out. Close off the opposite side of your nose and blow out like your grandpa taught you on the porch. And then you'll do the same thing on the other side. Squeeze, let it drip for a little bit, close off, and blow out. And I would suggest you do that not in the sink. Please don't do that in the kitchen sink. You guys, don't go and move the dishes out of the sink and clean your nose. You're going to have your wife have a heart attack. So don't do that. All righty. Hopefully you would never do that, but all right. I want to thank you all for listening. I don't want to take up any more of your time. We spent 28 minutes just talking about allergies and what to do. This is Body in Balance, and Body in Balance loves their listeners. And so now that you know what to do and how to do, you can now do better. And in your doing better, let's make sure that we do some of the things that I talked to you about. And I will see you next week when we are going to be discussing things about the nose. Hopefully, your horizons have been enlightening.